about y'all tired of y'all kids? Didn't nobody tell you to sit up there and have all them kids. Now school's out, daycare out, y'all can't go to work. Y'all ain't got nothing to do but watch your own kids. Yeah. Now you mad. Them grandmas are trying to watch them kids. None of that. Y'all got to deal with your own kids. Now y'all see what them teachers gotta go through. Y'all ought to be ashamed of y'all self. Sitting on the phone telling y'all friends. Ooh, child, I'm sick of these kids. And guess what? We sick of y'all too. Y'all don't know how to handle us. Shoot, y'all mad because y'all got to deal with you and your child. But you know what? Y'all better take this time to teach them kids how to act. And that's on period. Right now, toodles.
Can you hear me?
I
You
don't know
can't
if
hear
I'm
me.
live or
You
not.
are live. You are live.
We
Can you hear me?
are having a bit of a power outage here where I am. So I don't know if I'm
Okay.
live, but
You
I
are
need
live. You
Placida to
are
take it
live.
because
Okay.
we are
Well, I'm going to
experiencing
go
some
ahead and take
technical
it.
difficulties here until I can get
Well,
on.
all right.
We had a
Well,
little
we're talking
outage,
about.
and now systems and things are acting a little strange. So I'm going to sign off to sign back on.
Okay. Well, welcome to Maintain Monday. This is your host, Placida Braswell. As you just heard, Cassandra is having a bit of a struggle with her power over where she is. We had some tornadoes and storms rip through the area, so please keep that in prayer. But today we're talking about honey. The kids are home, as you saw from our young lady that was speaking, the Cassie show. She is amazing. She's very funny. But what she was saying was, we parents have some things we need to deal with during this time. The kids are home, school is out, you can't send them to grandma's house, and we are in trouble. In some cases, many parents are going to discover that the teacher wasn't the problem. Little Johnny actually doesn't pay attention in class. Little Johnny wants to jump up and have a snack or play with his friends or whatever during class. And now it's up to us to pay attention. So, joining the show right now, we have two, there's three people joining the show. We have Micheal and Chavelle Dorsey, and we have Shamyra Parker. They are parents that are at home with their kids during this time, and we want to hear directly from the source what's going on at home. So, welcome to Maintain Monday, Micheal and Chavelle and Shamyra Parker.
What up?
Hey, how are you?
We're
What's
good.
going on? Those are my peeps right there.
Hi, y'all.
Hi, how you
Hi.
doing? All right, Shavella, move
Excellent.
on over the mic so we can see your pretty face, girlfriend. Hey, Shamyra. So
Hi.
I want to tell you who we have on the line. Well, first of all, I'm gonna start with Micheal and Shavella.
It's not working. Do how you work. I tried to tell you. Hi, how are you?
Hi. So Micheal was one of the very first hosts we ever had on the Elevation Radio Talk Show. Micheal and Chavelle go way back with Cassandra. I've only recently, in the last, 5 years, maybe a little bit more than that, we've known each other, but they are some dear friends, and they are at home with their baby, and they're going to tell you about that experience. And Shamyra is my girlfriend. She is a self-care mental health advocate. She is a woman who is doing things. She's in women in leadership positions, a mental makeover. That's what she does. She gives Black women in leadership positions a mental makeover and show them how to make self-care non-negotiable so that they are emotionally whole and not suffering in silence. So welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. How's it
Thank
going,
you.
y'all?
Well,
Going.
It's going. It's going. Not bad, not bad. Okay, Shamyra, let's start with you. You are a single mom of 2 boys.
Yes.
When I think boys, I think energy. How's that going at
Yes.
home?
They are full of energy. They are 6 and 8 years old, and they also always want mommy's attention.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it is a challenge balancing between working from home and also giving them what they need, and then the whole homeschooling element, right? So one of the first things I did was I created a schedule, because I
Mm-hmm.
know that kids need structure, because I found that without the schedule, they were negotiating things. Like they were negotiating snacks, they were negotiating like extra meals, like they didn't have their school stomachs on. And I was just like, like this is not what we're about to do all this time that we're home.
Right.
So the schedule, the visual schedule, like I literally, and we put it together. So they got
Mm-hmm.
to participate in it. And now they just go to the wall. They're like, and then they look at the clock and they're like, so mommy, it is 10 o'clock. It is time for our mid-morning snack. So, I mean,
Yes.
that helped a lot with my sanity. But as far as energy, one of the big things is
Uh-huh.
really they have to move. Y'all know if you have boys, they have to be moving. So we
Mm-hmm.
do twice a day.
You do PE twice a day. I
Yeah.
love that tip. I love that tip. Okay, so we're gonna pause with you for a moment. I'm gonna bring in the Dorseys, because at least y'all have one benefit. You outnumber him. Shamyra's outnumbered, but y'all
I'm out.
outnumber him. So tell us how it's going at the Dorsey's house.
it's going well for the most part. I think I'll let Shavella speak to it because she's been more engaged with some of the extra activities with him.
Uh-huh.
How would you say it's going?
It's not going bad, not too bad, not too bad. I can honestly say. Um, we do have a schedule. It's not visual, but we do have a schedule where he knows that for this amount of time, this is schoolwork. He has breaks very similar to the structure that Mount Pleasant Church and Ministry, the school he goes to there, this Christian school,
Mm-hmm.
very similar to that. So it's not too far off of what he's accustomed to. Lunch is basically about the same time. Because he is a boy, like you mentioned before, a lot of energy is involved. So we make sure that he goes outside and he just walks, runs, just enjoys that fresh air that is necessary. Um, it's
Can I pause you right there for 1 minute?
for sure.
I need our listeners and our viewers to realize that both of these parents are being successful because of the physical education aspect. Like, I don't want us to miss that. You're both saying stay active. Don't like try to do it just on your schedule, what works for you, your conference calls. You have to plan for them,
Yeah.
right? Do I hear you guys saying that?
Absolutely.
Now, what
Absolutely.
I will say
Mhm.
for Mike is because he's an only child, he knows how to entertain himself to a degree.
Yeah,
So
that
that's one
makes
of the
sense.
perks that we do have. And I think that for me, I tend to take that for granted a little bit, that he kind of
Hmm.
knows how. So there are times where I have to be reminded, oh, I do need to spend some time with him. But what's funny is he makes it known that he wants some Mikey time. Like he'll make it known, like all of a sudden
Hmm.
he'll pop on in, or you'll start
Hmm.
hearing him singing, or he'll be extra loud with stuff because he wants to
Yes.
make sure we know, hello, I'm
Whew.
here.
A moment of silence for the attention seeking behaviors.
Yes.
But you're so right. So, Eric and I have 8 children. And so our youngest is kind of here and in that stage where Mike is, right? And you're right. They know how to get their attention,
Hmm.
when they need it. And sometimes if we don't create that schedule you guys were talking about, and I think sometimes this is about us sticking to the schedule and not so much them, right? Because if we don't stick to that schedule, they're like, hold on,
That's not how it
Yeah,
you
they
goes.
go.
said you were going to be done working at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
And I know you still working on that thing that seems real important to you, but I'm over here and I want dinner. I want your time. I want your attention. I want your whatever, right?
Yeah,
Right.
they keep you accountable. And I
They
think what
do.
you're mentioning is something that I woke up in my prayer time thinking about actually this morning was honor. and honoring our children and also honoring our word. And
That's so good.
so important because I'm guilty, right? Like I'm like, just 10 more minutes. Just 10
Right.
more minutes. And it's not really fair to them. And I make it a point to keep my word. And so honoring them in the same way that I would want them to honor me if they gave me their word.
Exactly.
And so modeling that behavior right now has become so important because it's up close and personal. And
That's right.
it's doing it when it's not easy that
Mm-hmm.
shows them that you are the person of your word and that,
Exactly.
they're modeling the behavior that you're putting forth.
So you're saying stay accountable, right?
Because they're going to keep you accountable one way or
They're
another.
going to keep you accountable.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And you're absolutely right. Why should we expect them to honor and respect our space, our time, our boundaries, and then the ones that we set together? Because pretty typically we're setting them for them, right? They're not telling us you're going to be done at 6. We're saying I'm going to be done at 6, and then we don't show up at 6. So we're teaching something when
Yeah.
we do that, right?
Yes. And can we
Right.
say something a little bit more about that? Also, what's really important is setting realistic expectations for yourself.
Can I pause you right there to have Karima come on in, because she's going to help us with that. So
Yeah.
if we're going to welcome to the show Kareem Green, she is doing this. She has been doing this for a long time, and I want her to be a part of what you have to say. So Kareem Green, come on into the show. But go ahead. Go ahead, Shamyra. Continue
Oh,
with
no.
realistic expectations.
Realistic expectations. I talk about that even in self-care because a lot of times people beat up on themselves because they haven't even set realistic expectations of themselves. They're setting expectations all the way up here instead of really taking bite-sized kind of kind of steps to getting to where they want to be or need to be. And I
Right.
think, especially right now, in a time where we really need to give ourselves a lot of grace, um, that it's really important to look at what it is that's realistic for your current situation. We have all of a sudden become homeschooling parents. We are
Come
all,
on now.
you've gone from being, the traditional worker to the remote worker. And what does that look like? And so when you're setting your expectations, they can't be the same as what it looked like when you were in the office. So if you
That is
think
so
you're
good.
if you think you're going to be done at 6, is that based on the expectation that you're going to get to work straight through? Because let me tell you, if you have your babies at home, honey, the kids are home and you are not working straight through, you are going to have to break that thing up and say, okay, well, I'm going to cut it off at 6, but then I'm going to log back on at 9 and work.
Right.
Or, it's just setting realistic expectations that reduce, in my opinion, the frustration for both the children and us.
That is so good. And can I tell you that Honey, the Kids Are Home looks more like Honey, the Kids Are Home.
Honey, the kids are home.
All right. So welcome, Karima. How are you? Beautiful. Karima Green is the owner and founder of the Genius School. Karima, like myself, is the mom of multiples. She has 6 babies and she's been homeschooling for quite some time. So Karima, tell us about how did you start the Genius School?
Well, like you said, Placida, first of all, hello to everyone. Thank you so much, Placida, for having me on. I am honored. I have been homeschooling for 17 plus years. My oldest son is 21 years old. The youngest is 9. And so this has been our way of life for a very long time. To answer your question as to how I began the Genius School began out of frustration. I was a formerly public school teacher, and I did a really good job of recreating school in my home. So that realistic expectation that you were just talking about there, my friend, yes, I blew that out of the water because I recreated a schedule that mimicked the school schedule. And when you are at home, that's an unrealistic expectation. So out of burnout for myself, apathy for the children, because I followed the school curriculum, I placed the curriculum above who my children are because I wanted to follow the script. As a result of that, we were not happy. The children were not learning, and I was not getting to the very person that God created them to be. So I did something I said I would never do. I put my curriculum down, and any professionally trained teacher knows that is not what you do. But I put the curriculum down, and instead the children and their curiosity became the curriculum.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's how the Genius School was born. The Genius School was born to figure out what is the genius in every single child. And how do you do that? You do that by allowing the child or a person to do something that they would enjoy, they do well, and they're proud of. And so that was for the Genius School. And that is what I encourage parents who are currently Corona schooling, if we can be real. That's what I encourage you to do with your children. Yes, do the schoolwork that the school has assigned to the best of your ability, but take this time as a gift. There has been a shift in the world of education.
Yes.
And it's time for us to take advantage of that shift. And you do that by figuring out what is the bent of your child, who you created them to be. And you figure that out by simply allowing them to take control for a minute and to do something that would light them up on the inside. And then you become their assistant and you help them learn as much of that as possible.
I would like to give you a standing ovation for that just now, but we're going to do this practically in this moment. What we're going to do is we're going to use Mike. Mike Jr. And we're going to talk about what is the thing that lights him up on the inside. And then Karima is going to say, like, what do you do with that? Like, okay, now I have it. I have the thing that I know lights him up. What do you do with that information once you get it?
All right. So he likes STEM. And so we've actually, on the weekends, we've been doing STEM projects. So like one weekend we built a volcano. I think this past weekend we built crystalline rocks. So he really enjoys STEM projects that really light him up outside of the typical technology that every child probably in America enjoys. STEM is really what he's really involved in and really enjoys.
Okay.
Awesome. So if I can piggyback on that, and your son's name is Mike Jr., is that right?
Yes.
So the best thing that you can do for Mike is continue what you're doing, but there is something very, very important to pay attention to. The true definition of learning is the acquisition of knowledge. All learning happens inside of the learner, just like all eating happens inside of the eater. So the best thing that you can do is provide more opportunities for Mike to engage with that type of material. Now, here's the thing. We can never force anyone to learn anything. The very best thing we can do is observe when Mike likes to learn. What materials does he learn best from? What does he enjoy? How does he enjoy manipulating these things? And then provide him an opportunity for him to come to them when he is ready to acquire them. Now, I've made this mistake now, parents. I went out, I have two boys, my middle boys that are STEM people. I went out and bought all this stuff. I had all kinds of technology, science projects, science books, workbooks, DVDs, all kinds of stuff, right? And I'm like, okay, you got your stuff. Come on, y'all, let's go. Let's get to learning. Come on, let's hit it. And they're looking at me like, okay, so we just finished the project and that's great. And so you want to give the children a space to come when they're ready. You see what I mean? It's an
That's so good.
Learning. Yeah, I call it PRN learning. PRN is a Latin term which means pro nata, and that means as the situation arises, that is when we acquire knowledge. So keep doing what you're doing. You have solved the biggest problem, and that is that you know what it is that he's interested in. And for parents who don't know, simply observe. Watch what it is that they lean into. Watch what it is that they talk about.
Watch their lean. That's so good. That's so good. So as I'm going to transition off and allow Cassandra in because she's back on and she's back joining us and she has a lot to add to this conversation. But while we're doing that, Shamyra, won't you tell us, because now we're going to go back to the Dorseys and we're going to use them as our test subjects again. And we're going to say, okay, while we have Mike engaged in his learning, how important it is for their self-care. Because remember, they're all home right now together. That can be a lot as a married couple, home trying to do all these things all day long. So see you guys later. Cassandra's going to be joining us, okay?
Okay. So as far as your self-care, one of the biggest things that I've found to be really effective right now. Hi, Cassandra.
Hi.
Hey.
Had to move areas. That's all. Just had to go to another area.
We were talking about self-care and how parents are able to practice self-care while they're home with their kids and just
Right.
doing all the different things. And one of the biggest things that I found has been helpful is figuring out what you like to do to take care of yourself. Like, what do you do that makes you feel
That's
nourished,
good.
that makes you feel like you're adding something to yourself and really refueling and re-energizing yourself. And when you figure out what that thing is, to create a kid-sized version of it.
Right.
So,
A
you know,
kid size version.
a kid-sized version, yeah. And that may require you think a little bit, but I'll give you an example.
I
I
was going to
wanted
say, tell us what that looks like, Shamyra.
So an example is I needed a couple of things as a person who I consider myself an ambivert, so I can be introverted, I can be extroverted, but I am struggling with connection, being
Mm-hmm.
outside, just just all of that. And I needed to get outside, but I wanted to be safe. So there's
Mm-hmm.
this balance between being safe and sane.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what? I just want to go out to my backyard. I want to get some sunshine, get some good old vitamin D. And I just want to take some time to just be still, to just be instead of doing. It is very
Right.
difficult as a parent to just be and not do especially when your babies are home, whether that's work or having to do with them. And so what I wanted to do was just take time to breathe and be at peace. And that mindfulness exercise, which is what they call, I mean, that's really what mindfulness is. It's getting still, clearing your mind, and just being and breathing. But how do you do that when you have a 6 and an 8-year-old
Mm-hmm.
and they have constant questions and they need snacks all the time? So what I did was
That's one of
I
the bills that went up the grocery list, right?
listen,
Woo, the
okay.
grocery
Well,
list.
that's a whole other conversation.
Yes.
So what I did was I got this idea from one of my mentors, so it's not mine, but I used it and it worked. So I showed them some YouTube videos. I looked up what birds were indigenous to our area. Just stay with me. And I let them listen to the bird sounds.
Mm.
And I said, listen to these bird sounds. And I said, okay, this is the whatever kind of bird. This is the whatever kind of bird. And I just did two because they're attention span. And I said, okay, so when we go outside, you're going to get your little lawn chairs. I'm going to get my little lawn chair. And we are going to listen for the bird sounds. But you have to be really, really quiet in order to hear these birds talking. So what we did was we got really quiet. And I got my mindful moments. I got my time to be quiet and sit in silence and breathe while they listen for bird sounds. Now, of course, they piped up, well, mommy, I was like, we're not going to be able to hear those birds. We're not going to be able to hear those birds.
I'm waiting to hear if they said what the birds were saying.
We got to be really quiet if we want to hear those birds. And they legitimately were listening for these bird sounds. Now, of course, you have to take into account for each age group their attention span. So I couldn't be out there for 30 minutes or an hour, but I got myself a good 15 minutes of stillness and sun on my face and being in nature, because there's something so powerful about when we get out in nature and breathe the fresh air and the sunshine. It's so good for our minds and our
Right.
emotions. And so I got what I needed, and they did a fun activity and they were cool. So what is it that you need to do for your self-care that you can get them involved in? Is it that you like music and you like to dance and you want to have a dance party in the middle of in the middle of the living room? How do you bring them into that? How are you energizing and refueling yourself, but how can you bring them into it?
That's good. And you know what? Yesterday, we had, they did this challenge. My kids are all adults, of course, but we did this challenge, and they did a challenge. Really, it was called the what is it? I can't remember the song, but it's one of those line dance songs where they have an exercise challenge for it now.
They got challenges for everything.
For everything, and I like that, getting them involved in what you like to do. And I think what is, and I don't know if you guys got into the discovery part. Did you get into the discovery part yet? Did Placida talk to you guys about that?
I'm not sure.
Okay. The one thing that we have discovered while our children are home, and even while we're home, that there's some things that you realize, like the video, the little girl was saying, these your children. There's some things that the teacher may have been saying that you didn't recognize, but also there's some gifts and some things that they like to do. Now, again, my children are older, but now my daughter, who is also a trainer, thank you, Mr. Micheal Dorsey, who was her communication teacher in college, is now a trainer for a bank, right? So she trains, and what I noticed while she was home, that discovery part, because you're talking about the discovery, you're teaching them how to observe and look, right? And which we as parents automatically know how to do. We should know the bend in our children and recognize it. So what I noticed was she knew some things about training, because I'm a trainer too. She knew some things about training. Like, I'm looking at her like, man, if she hadn't been home, I wouldn't realize that this girl knows how to do this. She's making voiceovers in the training piece. She's doing this. I'm like, wow. So the discovery part is what you're talking about. Now they know how to discover, how to be talented, but also there's a part in our children I feel like God said we were missing. There's things that you were not seeing in your children. You know, when you leave, when you get up in the morning and you leave and you go to work, you say, have a nice day at school, and then you hand them over to the teacher. And then once you get back home, you get them back. And there's some time in between there where we were missing something in our children. So I believe that during this time, God has set us all still, so we can really discover what is in our children. Now, tell me some things that you guys have discovered in your children during this time.
So we did kind of talk about that a little bit.
Oh, you did?
But I didn't get to talk about my babies.
Okay.
I get to talk about my babies. So my one of my children, one of my boys, he is in a STEM program. And so you guys mentioned STEM, and your son loves STEM. I knew that he loves STEM, but I didn't understand his real passion for it.
Yeah.
He likes experimenting. He likes creating things. He finds things in the house that I would have never thought, and he creates things from them. And you can see him light up when he brings it to me. Mommy, look at what I made. Look at my experiment. Look what I built. And I just really love seeing that and being a part of that. And I told them that. I sat them down and I said, this time is hard for all of us, but I am really enjoying getting to know you all in a way that I wouldn't have been able to get to know you. And we get to kind of experiment with other things that they might want to do, because everybody is making everything virtual. So now I'm looking for other programs, and I'm like, hey, what do you want to try today? You want to try this program? They have like online museum tours. Are you guys interested in art? Are you not? You know, I had him in a week-long STEM. There's a woman I know, and she does STEM classes where she teaches kids how to code. She teaches them how to create stories with technology. And I had him in a week-long class so he could try that, whereas he might not have been able to do that before. And I discovered something new about him then. He doesn't particularly care for reading and writing as much. Like, he likes it, but he would much rather be doing math and science. So that's good to know, as I'm constantly buying a whole bunch of books. And he actually want all the So, you know, it's discovering that. And then with my youngest, it has been interesting discovering how he is really still trying to figure out what he likes, because he's basically following behind his big brother. So when we thought that he had an interest, it actually wasn't his own. So I've been trying to encourage him to discover what he likes, what he loves.
And so who else has discovered something? Talk to us about that discovery piece.
I know Mike, I knew that he was interested in like music and stuff like that, but I didn't realize to what degree like he really was a singer. And so all of a sudden he'll get to singing, and he actually not just sing, but he takes out his part, and it's actually pretty kind of cool. Now Shamyra gets to work with him with the kids choir, but I don't get to do that with him. And so for me it was kind of news. And every time he gets in the bathtub, he's just going. I mean, he's singing the different parts. And I said, wait a minute, is that Mike? And she's like, And I said, how often does he do this? And she's like, all the time. because I'm not, my life is actually so busy. A lot of times I'm out of the, I'm out
Right.
of a lot, in the evenings and stuff. And so by the time they're getting settled for bed and stuff, I'm pretty much, that's when I get back in. And so to actually experience that with him is kind of cool. So he is stubborn though. He still has a little stubborn streak about him. I think he gets that from his mama.
Cameron, what is it that you have discovered? I know you already have a homeschool. You were already homeschooling.
Oh, Karima. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So yes, I've been homeschooling for 17 plus years. And so everything that you're talking about is exactly what I'm able to do every single day.
Right.
So my youngest child, he's 9. He is within the world of traditional homeschooling, right? We have something that's called unschooling, which really is self-directed learning. And so my youngest has always been unschooled, which means that he's never heard me say, sit down, it's time to do math, reading, writing, anything. Instead, his main purpose every day is to wake up and to do something that would light him up on the inside. So that's what I tell him. And I have told him every morning since the day he was born, let's figure out why God made you. Get a little closer to your purpose today. And so as a result, he has had the freedom to play with toys, to create stories with his toys. And through that process, he said to me recently, Mom, I think I want to be a movie director. Right. Because he has just had the time to engage deeply with stories and literature and play. So I've also learned in this journey not to discount the things that our children are interested in simply because they might not line up with either our expectations or what we think is valuable or valuable, but to allow those little rabbit trails to continue because we don't know where they're going to go. One of my favorite verses says, do not despise the day of small beginnings. Rejoice to see the plumb line in Zerubbabel's hand. So when these little glimpses that we get into our children, follow them. Again, like I said before, follow them patiently. Follow them in a spirit of trust. Trust that there are gifts inside of your children that you don't need to bang out of them, that you don't need to rush out of them. You just simply need to nurture an environment that allows the child to come to their genius when they're ready. So take your time, enjoy the process. Out of all 6 of my kids, I've had the beautiful privilege and honor to be with them every single day, and to watch them learn how to leverage their gifts and their talents. And now, as many of them are launching into adulthood, that is the focus now for what most traditionally call high school. I call that's the proving ground. If you think this is your interest, then let's get on out there every day. Let's go to work. Let's go volunteer. Let's go apprentice. Let's make sure that this is exactly what you want to do. And then to allow them an opportunity to figure out how to serve others with their gifts.
Okay. Well, that's great. So with the discovery piece, because I really think that I was watching hey, we all watched, I don't know if you all watched, we all watched the Clark sisters this weekend.
Yeah.
How many of you guys got a chance to watch that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A few times.
So yes, me too. So what I noticed, because we're talking about how God has allowed this time for us to discover our children's gift. What I've learned that the mother knew the gifts in her children, but she may have been a little more too aggressive with some things, or she may have been trying to get the children to live out her dreams. So I want to talk to you guys about balance. Not trying to get the child to be you or live out your dreams, but really, really looking at the bend. Because I think what we don't want the parents to do during this time is to look at the child. If they're not doing it the way they like it, or they're not doing what they think they should do, then they're going to get frustrated. They're going to get frustrated. And they're going to be like, well, you don't listen to me. But how about take the time to discover what we just said? So how can you, as a parent, notice the bend and begin to bend and begin to nurture? Let's say nurture the bend and not bend the child, or give the parents some warning signs. not been the child to what you want them to be versus what God has called them to be? Anybody can answer.
I'll jump in real quick. Very, very quick, because this was the mistake that I made. And this is why I've dedicated the rest of my life to allowing children to learn in freedom, abundance, and full self-expression. So the main solution to not breaking the child but noticing the bend is just what I said before: patience and trust, and understand that that child's gift will manifest, and that gift will come into its purpose at the right time. And so that is what's most important. I did not learn that in the beginning. Once I found out what their bend was, I wanted them to rush to it, and I wanted to hurry up and get to it, and let's get on out there and show people what you can do. But it's a certain time and an ebb and a flow.
Yes.
So patience and trust and nurture.
Right. And that's, yes. Anybody else want to talk about that?
I think you should also make it a point of prayer in your life.
Yeah.
God tell you where he should take you, so that way you can help guide your child to wherever it is God has called them to be. And with that, a level of discernment, because if you don't, then it's going to become one of those things where it's going to make your child frustrated, because you're trying to make them what you think the child should be instead of what God has called them to be, and you won't know necessarily where God comes unless you've actually had that relationship with God and He's told you this is the direction that your child is supposed to go, and I'm going to take you both there.
Right. Shamyra, is that what you would say as well?
Is my mic on? I thought okay. So
your mic is on. We can hear you.
So I agree with all of those. I actually prayed a prayer that God would show me His purpose for my children, even though He showed me when I was pregnant with them, and to help guide me in how I could utilize wisdom in guiding them and ushering them into a place of trusting themselves to discover what it is that God has for them and who it is that they're supposed to be. That's a very sensitive subject for me when it comes to the children discovering, because I know that I was given advice that I should do this and I should do that. And so one of the biggest things that I feel with my kids is I never want to should on them. I don't want to tell them what I feel like they should be.
Right.
I know, and so one of the things that I think for parents is very important is to deal with their own level of self-awareness and consciousness around that. And then also healing around whatever their experience was.
Right.
Trust is a huge one, because I think that the reason why we don't trust our children to find their way and figure out what lights them up and what they love is because there's an element of trust that we don't have with ourselves. Right. So there's all this unresolved stuff, and we're projecting it onto them, and we're putting something on them that they were never meant to bear.
Right.
So when we get healed, when we get free, when we have a level of consciousness and awareness around what it is that we're actually doing, because a lot of times parents don't even know that they're doing it. And it's a part of it, even can be a byproduct of their upbringing and what was done to them. So that piece for me is really key, before we can even get to what Kareem was saying, I think, which is clutch. It's amazing. But if we're not doing what we're supposed to do for ourselves, then we'll fall back into those patterns over and over and over again.
And you know what, Shamyra, that's so good you said that, because I actually been taking a couple of training courses, and there's so much free training courses and things out there to help you to see things better. Let's put it that way, especially life, and to see yourself better. Yeah. And one of the things that we had to go through, he said, in order for you to realize this area that God has called you to, let's deal with some of the pain. Let's deal with the pain first. Yep. Let's deal with the blind spots. Let's deal with the hurt. So let's deal with all that, because if you don't deal with that first, that means that it could be given to you.
Yes.
Just like our children are given to us by God. They can be given to us, but we absolutely do not know what to do with them.
Right.
Because we are allowing them to live out the pain that we never dealt with. So that's so true. That's so true. So I want to ask Mike, and I'm gonna ask Mike and Chavelle and Shamyra to give our viewers some closing remarks. But I want to ask Mike this. Mike, I know you are a big executive trainer, VP. How have you been able to manage that? You know, you still have to work from home. You still have to do. You still have a job to do. I mean, and you are a major leader for the state of Maryland. How have you managed to be the manager, be the husband, be the father, all in that same space?
I think that's a great question. First of all, that I think it goes back to what Shavelle said earlier. Is definitely a time of prayer.
Mm-hmm.
I will be honest with you. The first week was very overwhelming. I think when the governor made the announcement on the 12th that we were going to be going into, most state workers are going to be going into, telework status. That was my last day in the office, and so I have not been in the office since the 13th. And so the first week was just spent getting information. It was information overload. We were preparing to close the state offices, and then you're watching the news. And so it was one of those things where, and I would talk to Shavelle. Shavelle was like, "You need to stop watching it." She said, "Stop watching the news,"
Really?
because it was really impacting me. And so it was one of those things where it was very clear that the Lord was like, "All right, I need you to rechannel some of this." And what I ended up doing was, believe it or not, I had to find another outlet. And so I started an online Bible study. And many people, have different reasons for why they do certain things. But to be honest with you, what really grabbed me to do that was so that I was forcing myself to get in the Word during this time,
Right.
because I needed to be able to find that balance. And so what that did was that actually gave me a natural way of really getting myself into the Word, not so much because I want to, be a good teacher or whatever, but because I just needed the Word for myself.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so for me, it was really taking that time to spend some time with the Lord. And then what the Lord has done is allowed me to be able to just pick up on when are the times where I need to be 100% present to what's going on at work, 100% present to what's going on at home. He's allowed us to kind of see when there's some natural ebbs and flows. And, there's some times where I may have, in my normal life, like sequestered myself away from the family. But, I'm intentional about putting myself with the family. And so
Right.
there's certain things that we do together that we didn't necessarily do together before, but we're doing it together now because it's important that we make sure we make that distinction. So those are just some of the, I know it's all over the place, but that's really how it had to be, because it was nuts. It still is nuts, but
So in God's way of forcing you to get into the Word more and to do that for other people has helped you. It's sharpened you. So by you going deeper in God, it's helping other people to go deeper in God.
That's right. That's
something
right.
who does that?
That's right. That's right. Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
Shavelle, so what are some closing comments you want to leave just to encourage those stay-at-home moms, stay-at-home dads, because I do know some single dads as well.
Before she talks, I just have to say publicly, she is incredible. Like, there are times where I'm sitting in here and I'm in between a teleconference or something like that, and I'll just be listening, and I'll mute the whatever I have going on in the background just to listen. And she is phenomenal. Like, she really is doing a great job. So you see her blushing.
Yeah, she's
one thing I will say is, and I believe someone may have alluded to it earlier in the conversation, we can't be too hard on ourselves because everyone is going through this change together. And this is the first time that we've all had to experience this at the same time. And so it's one of those things where if we make a mistake, as long as we learn from the mistake, we can move on. And as far as the children are concerned, they're going through this as well. And so they're going to make mistakes. And we all have to be able to loosen the tight grip of perfection that we may have on ourselves and on our children, because it's not going to be how it was before the COVID-19 came, and it's not going to be how it is after all this is said and done. So we all going to have to be able to change under our new norms and enjoy this time together, because who's to say that we're going to get this time with our children
Exactly.
if we're not permanently homeschooling them. We may not get this time with them, so we have to learn to be able to enjoy this time that we have with them.
That's it. So I want to thank the Dorseys for joining us. We thank you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Welcome, and we will have you guys back again real soon, because we're gonna need to see how after this all over, how y'all doing.
Sounds good.
So again, thank you, Shamyra. I just want you to give us some closing remarks as well.
So I want to kind of echo what they were talking about, and I put a name on it, right? I say grace. Grace is a big word for me, because not only does God give it to us every single day, but it's so important right now that we give it to ourselves, that we extend it to others, that we extend it to our children. I posted not too long ago about this whole should and toxic positivity thing. So, toxic positivity basically tells people how they should feel. And no matter what, it doesn't even give any kind of credence to negative emotions, but they're happening. People are feeling it. As parents, we have to be able to give ourselves the grace of knowing that we may not always have it all together. We may feel sad. We may feel upset. This is a collective global trauma that we are experiencing. And you don't get out of a trauma without experiencing some negative emotions. The important thing, though, is to give yourself the grace to experience them, feel them, and then move through them and not stay there. And I think that it's important to recognize that our kids may be experiencing that too. I think sometimes as adults, we don't always recognize, that our kids are little people. Like they experience emotions like we experience emotions.
Right.
And so
Right.
giving them a little extra grace too, because they're having to stay inside. They're having to not be as social with their friends. They're not being able to do the things that they would normally have been able to do. And we don't, and they may not always have the emotional vocabulary to speak
Exactly.
on how they feel. And so
Exactly.
extending them some grace. So grace is a big one for me.
Can I stop
And
you
then
with that one real quick? I just have to say this because it hits home so much for me in this moment. Grace is the core values of the organization that I work for, and this is what it stands for: godliness, relationship, accountability, customer service, and excellence. And it really, if you think of those as core values for what we're doing at home, the only one that I think you needs a definition, maybe that customer service piece, because we serve each other. Everyone's a customer, right?
Yes.
We serve each
Yes.
other. So whether it's mom to dad, mom to child, we're all each other's customer, right? And so how do you want to serve the individual? The same way you want to be served, right? So godliness, relationship, accountability, customer service, and excellence. If that were the mantra that we had in this environment, how different would many homes look, right?
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to give you that because
I
it was
love
like so perfect for this conversation. Go ahead. You were saying one last thing.
I absolutely agree with that. And then the other part I want to say is just prioritize your self-care. We cannot pour from an empty cup, and our children need us now more than ever. So you have to make the space and you have to prioritize. Your self-care has to be non-negotiable. Choose one thing that you are going to do for yourself every single day to refuel yourself, whether that's getting up 30 minutes earlier than the rest of the household and taking that time to pray and meditate and be with God. And whether that is, whatever, because it's going to be different for everyone. For me, I get up the extra 30 minutes, and then I also have started doing this yoga It's like a cosmic, it's a kid's yoga, but it's still real yoga. So now I'm getting
That's the yoga I probably need. Go ahead.
It's not easy. but but they love it. Because it has all these kind of like cartoons. One was like a video game. But the thing is, I'm moving my body.
That's
because
right.
I'm used to being on the go. I'm not used to sitting still a lot. I'm not used to being in the house a lot. Except for maybe on the weekends. And so I have literally incorporated them into my self-care practices. I thought this was a good time for me to not only teach them about self-care, but exemplify it for them.
Absolutely.
So the things that I was doing, I said, okay, this is what mommy would normally do. I'm going to start teaching you how to do this and why self-care is important. If we are not prioritizing our self-care, then we are not taking care of our mental and emotional well-being. And the bottom line is there is no health without mental health, period.
Mic drop. That's where we're going to cut it, because we could go to a whole nother show with that one, and we will have you back for another show, Shamyra. We love you so much. I love the work you're doing in the community. Keep doing it. And thank you so much for adding all your wisdom to today.
Thank you.
God bless you. We'll see you soon. So, Kareema, girl, you're doing this. I want to tell you publicly how proud I am of you. So Kareema and I have went to college together. We're friends there. We're friends after. But your life, right? We're not in each other's everyday circle, but we always see each other in our peripheral vision, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But I am so proud of what you've done with your babies and how you've maintained through struggle, through triumph, through. You're just an amazing force in our community, and thank you for what you're doing with the Genius School. So, go ahead.
Well, no, just wanted to thank you, Placida. As well, I have followed you throughout the years, and there are certain people that I call them my golden nuggets. And they're just golden at the core. And you have always been one of those people. So whenever you call, I'm right there to answer. So it is my privilege and my pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you. So I know from this conversation, from the comments we're getting, that people are excited. They love the content. What if they're saying to themselves, homeschool's not that bad? Like, I want to do this. Matter of fact, I want to be home with my kids. How can you help them?
So the very first thing first of all, that is exactly what I'm hearing across the board in many of my different homeschooling sites on Facebook and other social media platforms. Parents are saying, number one, some school districts are giving too much work. And so it is not something that the parents can manage while they're still working from home.
Right.
And the children are supposed to be on devices or completing work packets or whatever, and it's too much. So some parents are beginning to pull their children out of traditional public schools. So the very first thing that anyone should do is, number one, check with your state laws. Homeschooling is legal in all states, but the rules and the regulations to begin homeschooling and the expectation varies. So even though you may be corona schooling right now, if you want to homeschool right now, go ahead and unenroll your children from the public school or private, wherever they are, and then follow your state's guidelines in order to register them as a homeschooler. Once you've done that and you have received documentation from the state that they have received your intent to homeschool, then my best advice would be to do just what we've been talking about this entire conversation. Look at the bent of your children. If you are truly homeschooling, which means that you're not suddenly homeschooling or corona schooling due to the school system, you then have the freedom to not only create a routine or a schedule that suits your family, but you also have the freedom to offer your children whatever it is that they need to learn. So many states that have some regulation will say that they want to see your student learn the traditional school subjects, your reading or literature, language arts, your math, your science, and social studies, PE art, that type of thing. The beauty that you have in homeschooling is that you can take the interest or the bent of your children and then you can allow them to learn all of the school subjects through that bent.
That's beautiful. Yep.
And so I have two boys that are my STEM children, just like our previous guests. They can learn, they can engage in language arts, through the world and the world view, if you will, of science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Of course, that world right there involves math and technology, so that part is covered.
Right.
But you can cover all school subjects through the interest and pitch of the children. So that's where I would say to begin.
That's awesome. So I want to, before we end our time together, I want to just recap a little bit. The two main areas which we weren't able to clearly state up front are discipline and discovery. As Cassandra and I have been talking over this past week, because really what God had, the mantle that is on our lives is really to be the voice of truth, right? To listen, to keep our ear to the street, to the people, and really hear what the cry of the land is, and then to deliver that. And so, like you just said before Cassandra rejoined us, people are really saying, like, even though this may be hard, like, it's new, I wasn't expecting it, but I'm enjoying this time with my children. I want to do it right. I want to, whatever that is. I want to do it in a way that it's effective for our family, and that we are loving each other through it and not killing each other through it, right? And we're figuring out that two areas, the discipline of it and then the discovery of it, is really what's going to allow us to be successful in discovering all those different ways that we just discussed, right? Cassandra?
Absolutely. So, Placido, you said it. I think if we look at the positive side of this, and not saying, oh, these kids are here, I don't have time, or they're getting on my nerves. Ask God to let you see, to discover what it is in them that you need to help them to work on, what it is in them, what it is in you. Because, it goes back to us, what it is in you that you need God to work on. But there's so much positivity in this that, I know we see all the doom and gloom on the news, but God wants us to see something greater. So
absolutely,
in discovery, let's keep those double D's. We call them the double D's.
I can't tell you the visual I get every time we say that, but yes, the double D's, discipline and discovery.
Yeah.
And gosh, I'm just so grateful for this time. I'm so grateful. And Cassandra and I chose Mondays at noon to do this because one of the things you forget to do is go have a lunch break, right? When you're working from home, to just take a moment to do something that pours back into you. And I think, and I'm prayerful that this lunch break that so many of us have taken today, as we've seen people join our stream, will empower everyone to do home a little bit more balanced and healthy. Amen?
Amen. Amen.
So we have 1 minute, which means you have 30 seconds, Karima, for a final thought.
Perfect. And it's very, very simple. Like you just said, there has been a shift.
Yeah.
There has been an intentional disruption. And pay attention to that disruption. School, as we know it, since this is the topic of this discussion, has been interrupted. And it's been interrupted for a reason. And what the pulse is right now is, instead of focusing so much on the academics, let me now shift and focus on who is this kid. And that is my challenge to school administrators, to principals, to teachers, to parents, and to students. Do not go back to school as usual. Instead, take this time to create something new. And that something new is, what if school allowed people to figure out what they're good at and then to learn whatever you needed to learn to do that? What if the purpose of school is to figure out who God made this kid to be, and then this kid is able to learn whatever it is that they need in order to do their purpose? That's my invitation to your listeners and to the world at large.
Thank you so much.
Much, Karima. What a blessing you are. God blessing.
So been another great episode, or another great segment, or another great show of Maintain Monday. We just want to thank our viewers for tuning in. And Class, you want to leave us some final words? Because you know what my last word is going to be.
My final, you got it, girl.
Okay. Until then, maintain.
We love you. See you next week.